Hi, everyone. Welcome. I might just invite the panelists to join me at this point, and we'll do introductions in a moment. So do you guys want to come up and take seats? So while they're taking their seats, I don't know if it's been a great 2 days, and it's been a packed few days, but if anybody can cast their memory back to yesterday morning and Dan's absolutely bulletproof thesis that customer success was born in Europe, I think we can all remember that well. We are going to persist and proceed with this panel anyway and see what we can learn from the US. But the session's going to be 40 minutes. We will be using Slido, so please do submit your questions, and we'll get to them towards the end. I might just turn to you guys and ask you to introduce yourselves. Christine, you might start.
Great. Hi, Christina Kosmowski. Yeah, that'd be helpful. I can yell usually, though. Christina Kosmowski. I run customer success and services at Slack. I've been there just about 10 months, and before that I spent 15 years in the post-sales function, Customers for Life at Salesforce.
I'm Laura Fay. In the last 3 years leading customer success teams and operations, and prior to that, a different role in technology, product management, and general management for a very, very long time.
Hi, I'm John Herstein, Senior Vice President of Customer Success at Box, and I've been at Box about 6.5 years prior to that at other technology companies like NetSuite, Informatica, and Accenture.
Great. My name's Chris Dole. I work for Cisco's Cloud Security Division, and very privileged to run the global customer success team there, and we run a service that basically provides cybersecurity to about 85 million people every single day. So I really enjoy what I do.
Do you want to give that, Chris? I'll give this one to you, Christina. Great. Thank you very much. So I feel very fortunate to be sitting on the stage here along these people who I've come to like immensely over the last couple of days, but also who I admire tremendously. I think we're going to have a really good conversation and a really good discussion. So as I said, please do put your questions forward. I might start with you, Chris, and put the first question to you.
Okay. Chris
and I have a shared past, which we can ask about later on. A good one.
Yeah, that really leads wild imagination out there. Way to go.
Why not? Why not? So to set the scene, I mean, we've seen customer success really, mature over the last few years. It's really coming into its own. It's very strong. I mean, what's your kind of view on the changing perception of customer success? I think, whether it's at the board level or with customers themselves.
Yeah, great question. Essentially, what I have seen over the past 5 years. I mean, 5 years ago, the question was, what is customer success? And that is no longer the question. I think the practice itself has been widely accepted. People understand exactly what it is. And more importantly, as you've heard from a lot of really fantastic presentations these last 2 days, is that there's an understanding that customer success is not, my job or, your job or your team or your department. It really is a modus operandi for the entire business. And those that are going to do it exceedingly well are those that are going to bring in all functions, all disciplines of the business in order to proactively and consistently manage that customer experience and do it in a very, very strong manner. So that, I think, is the biggest change that I've seen, is that it's no longer viewed as one siloed organization or function, but it's something that, the entire business is responsible for.
Great, thank you. And John, I might come to you next. I suppose in parallel with those shifts we've seen that Chris has just spoken about, we've also seen greater sophistication in the operational aspect of it, the tooling behind it, and really the tooling that's available. How have you embraced this, and how have you leveraged it, for your organization?
Sure. I mean, I think the short answer is Gainsight, which was hopefully not an intentional plug there, but we've been looking at that. We'd been looking at the space for a while. And finally kind of pulled the plug in this, I think or pulled the trigger, I should say, not pulled the plug, on that decision about 3 years ago. And so I think what's sort of changed is that, Chris alluded to it, but customer success is really a discipline now, and disciplines come with tools, right? And I don't think the customer success manager, the practitioner, really had the tools. They had to sort of borrow and beg. We were doing things in Salesforce that didn't quite work for what the workflows were for CSMs. So that's really kind of the big shift that I've seen. The other big one I'd say is everyone's super excited about business insights and customer insights and data analytics and so forth. And so you've got a lot more people coming in kind of into the workforce now who want to do that kind of work, which just wasn't, I don't think, true 15 years ago. And that's been really, really helpful to us as we think about things like customer segmentation and customer insights.
Okay, great, awesome. I think sometimes, Laura, I'll come to you next. We spoke about this earlier on today, actually, and I think sometimes, innovation can often get wrapped up in technology, and really the two things become quite synonymous. But actually, I think innovation can happen more widely in customer success, and there can be other ideas around it. Maybe you could share your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think one of the areas that I'm starting to see more and more innovation in, and in fact, within good technology and BlackBerry is something I was really pushing the envelope on, which is the handshake between services and product management, which I think is a new, I'll say a new area. It's always been there, but really kind of creating that closed loop. But I mean, customer success is the perfect organization to give really, really key insights in a variety of different ways back to product management. Product management, if they move as the innovation starts to move from features to what I call features to outcomes, how do you bake in service offerings along with the product? How do you get innovation from within the product itself to reach users and deliver just-in-time type solutions? So I think there's a lot that the industry can do generally there, and I think we're sort of at the beginnings of that in terms of a much broader phase in thinking about customer success.
Great, thank you. And I think with all of this, advances that have been made and all the changes that we see and the tooling and what we've heard over the last couple of days is it doesn't necessarily always it doesn't naturally fall out of the rest of the organization as well. I might ask you, Christina, what has been the single thing that you found most challenging to lobby for, and how are you successful in getting that message across with the management team, the board, other parts of the business?
Yeah, I mean, I think, just to build on what the panel's already talked about, I mean, I think, we have this sense where people understand there is a need for customer success. They know it's important, but I'm not sure that it's 100% recognized across the board that it is this function that spans the entire company, and it has really the tentacles in all of the functions. And so, often I find that we're, knocking on the door saying, hey, we've got this treasure trove of information, just what we were just talking about into the data, the insights back, and how do we get that back into product? How do we get that back into the sales function? How do we get that back into marketing? And so I think we're continually kind of pushing a little bit on that. And then I think the second thing I'll just add real quickly too is I think, to tie to that, we're needing to see this seamless interaction between digital and humans. And so what I've seen in this evolution of customer success is it used to always just be about the human. And now I'm sure you've heard throughout the last 2 days, there's a huge focus on programs and one-to-many events and automation and pulling all that together. And I think really helping the company and our customers understand that it's got to be this seamless integration, and it's got to be both, and we got to bring all of that to the table, not just a person or not just a program or not just automation.
Okay, great, thank you. So John, I might come to you next. We just heard Christina talk about the human aspect and the digital aspect, but on the human side of things, what type of people do you choose to bring into the organization? And I think it's not just the customer success skills. There's also leadership skills and many other aspects to this. I mean, what do you choose in terms of how you pursue the strategy?
So a couple of things. One thing I would just say on the customer success manager side, and maybe just a sort of a pragmatic tip for you, I think when we first started hiring CSMs, we thought about it primarily as a relationship manager, and I think that's largely true. But as I kind of thought about the evolution of CSMs over the years, what occurred to me is that you also need a little bit of a project management gene inside your CSMs. You need to have people who are thinking not just about having a great relationship with the customer, but are thinking about things like outcomes, or thinking about things like deadlines, or thinking about the renewal date. Like my favorite question to ask a CSM is, when's the renewal? And you should know, for every one of your customers, when is the renewal? And I think if you've got CSMs who are too focused on just, I've got a great relationship with this customer, but not like, what are we actually trying to go for? That's a bit of a gap. So I would look for a project management gene in the CSM side, which is not typical. On the leadership side, I've been really lucky to have some pretty strategic thinking kind of leaders that worked with me. I had a person who came out of a management consulting background, and I've had people along those lines, MBAs, that sort of thing, which you might not typically think about, but there's a lot of strategy and there's a lot of thinking about the planning and the evolution of this, because there's not a playbook for how to do it. And so I would say go get at least one of those kind of person, people into your org, direct leadership team, to help you think about what this should look like over time. And then the other thing I referred to earlier is the business analytics side of it. So get people who are really good at getting into the data.
Great. I entirely agree with you on the project management skills. I think they are really essential. So Chris, just opportune moment to take the mic there. But if we think about if we think about the leader of that function, we talked about a lot of the skills that we bring in for that. But if we think about the leader of that group and your singular reason for existing in the organization, why the role exists, why it has a purpose. It could be redundant, but it's clearly not. And what's the responsibility to the organization, to the customers? What's your view on that?
Yeah, so I guess I would view it from two perspectives. One is sort of the internal look, and then one's the external facing look. Internally, look, at the end of the day, we're all shareholders. Whether you're a shareholder in a public company or you're with a startup, you are hired and employed to bring value to the business. And if you're not driving value every day, every week, every month, every quarter, maybe think about doing something else, right? But bringing value to the business is why this is there. And frankly, when you sort of look at the skill set of all the talented people in this room, one of the ways that we bring that value is by bringing value to our customers. So, I think the most important part of the role is figuring out ways to harness the power of your organization, be it in the quality of the messaging that you go to market with, be it in the quality and design and intuitive nature of the products and services that you build, launch, maintain, the way that you service your customers, the way that you proactively compress that time to value for your customers, the integrity with which you conduct yourself in the sales cycle. Everything that you do or the teams around you do, leave an indelible mark upon the customer to either do more business with your brand or do less. And so the single best thing that we can do is just help harness the organization to deliver a positive brand imprint at every stage of the customer life cycle, at every touch point along that customer journey, and that's what we do. That's, in short, what I would suggest.
Great. And Laura, something else that we were talking about earlier on that, I think really fostered a very interesting conversation. We were talking about the smartest thing you've done on this journey, and I just thought your answer was really interesting, and maybe you could share it.
Yeah, we spent a bit of time talking about this. So the smartest thing, context. So as part of good technology, we made that shift from a traditional licensing model to a subscription licensing model. And I'm sure many of you are either going through that, have gone through it, or are about to go through it, if you're in a company that's been around a while. And we had made that shift over the course of 2 years and then got acquired by a company that was a traditional licensing model company. So it felt like a little bit of a step back. But one of the things that I did at that time that seemed to resonate so much with Eleanor was I did a roadshow around all of the executives and spent a lot of time with the finance people. And the education there was, okay, here's how the analysts here's the question that the analyst community are asking you today, and the investor relations people. Here's the questions they're asking today. But as we make the shift, they're going to start asking more and more questions around ARR and related metrics that are typical to a subscription business. It might seem obvious to some of you who've been born in the cloud or born with a subscription model, but it was quite an education for those who hadn't been in that. And I spent quite a bit of time doing that. Once that wave of questions started to happen, and even before it, they began to put pressure on the business to start to deliver on that, which then sort of trickled down, which was fantastic because it was basically that umbrella said, oh, of course, here we are, customer success, and here's how we can help propel the business forward. So it sort of created that forcing function from the top down that I think really would have taken a lot longer to take place.
Great, thank you. And Christina, unintentionally, I seem to have given you two quite difficult questions. Apologies. But you know, something that I found challenging, in my time, in my position, and I think we all face more acute challenges at times than others. But I thought I'd put the question to you. I mean, what are the things that keep you awake at night? What are the things that really settle in your brain and you just become very tenacious about?
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to what I was talking about earlier, is that integration between digital and human. At Salesforce, one of the things, we were very early in customer success. I mean, I think really it was coined, customer success manager, the term was coined around 2005 in Salesforce, and everything was about people. And there was this segmentation model, and it was all about people. And then, later on, we started adding programs in that scale and putting things more in app. And so when I got to Slack, I said, all right, that's one of the first things we're going to do, is we're going to really make sure that from the beginning, we're bringing that together. But it still keeps me up at night, which is, when do you deliver a person versus a program versus automation, and what do those times look like, and what does coverage look like? And how do we still establish accountability with individuals, but yet they may be delivering things through these different vehicles, or certain things may be being delivered through the product, but yet the person still feels accountable to it. And so I think that still continues to be the biggest challenge in customer success, at least from my perspective.
Okay, right.
I wholeheartedly agree, Christina, but I was just going to say what keeps me up at night is jet lag.
That too. I got about 2 hours sleep last night.
I feel like I need to add something here that's pretty profound. What keeps me up at night is Chris Dole calling me at 3 a.m. and asking me questions like, how do you do customer success? And what are you wearing? I can't sleep.
But we have business ideas, right?
Oh, we do have some business ideas, though, don't we? Yeah.
Right.
Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, sure.
Can we just?
Please.
So we I don't know if you guys were in the session earlier, the New Voice Media session. Were you guys in that? Yes? How about a little energy? Yeah? And there was a demo of some technology. Did you guys see that? So what we love about the conference is that you can network and exchange ideas and brainstorm. And Chris and I have been working on a thing. We've got an improvement. So they had this thing where it's like a string and 2 tin cans and so forth. Check this out. Ready? It's wireless.
Watch for it. Watch out, New Voice Media. We're coming after you.
Fabulous.
Late. It's getting late.
It does actually get better. There is something lined up that will top that. But I might just ask, before we turn to audience questions, I might just ask you, for each of you, very in the briefest sense, and something that's very close to my heart, but what do you celebrate? I mean, what are the big wins? And really just a very kind of a couple of words, if you wouldn't mind. Chris, I might start with you.
What do I celebrate? I mean, everything, It's fresh, clean, crisp air, this beautiful city, this awesome collection of customer success practitioners. I try to celebrate anything and everything that we possibly can and try to bring that to our teams. I mean, look, it's hard work. It's hard business. This is a practice. There aren't any kind of clear set rules. We have to do a lot of trial and error, a lot of A/B testing, and anything that we can do that shows little wins, let's celebrate it and double down on those. And if things don't stick to the wall, then just skip it and move on.
Same?
Yeah, please.
So this one may be a little counterintuitive, and I was going to actually answer it on a different question, which is, well, there's the obvious thing, which is obviously customer renewals, expansion things where the customer success org or CSM has had a significant role in that. I think if you're in a technology company, the two organizations that tend to get most of the glory will be sales and engineering, right? The people who build the product and the people who sell the product. And it's important to celebrate all the work that goes on behind the scenes that's not as obvious, right? The renewals, the expansions, the nurtures of customers and so forth over time. So you've got to find ways to do that. We have a CS Recognition Award that's peer nominated that we do every quarter, so that's kind of a cool way to do that. But the other thing I would say that's a little, like I said, counterintuitive is we heavily promote internal mobility from customer success into other parts of the business. And it's really counterintuitive if you're a people manager to actively export your people into another team. And if you're writing this down, stop and think, do I care about this company and do I plan to be here a long time? If you don't bother doing what I'm about to say, right? But if you do, this is a long game kind of a strategy. And we've been doing this, I've been at Box for over 6 years, we've been doing this almost since the beginning. And I can now look around the company and I've got CS alum from my consulting team, my user services team, my CSM team, who are now sitting in product, marketing, sales engineering, sales, engineering itself, operations. And those people, I know, all have a CS mindset somewhere in their head, right? And that's a very, very valuable thing for me as I'm thinking about how we serve the customers going forward. So if you plan to be at your company a long time, get really thoughtful about exporting your talent.
Great. Thank you very much. And I think maybe we've got about 30 seconds each.
I'm just going to say that's phenomenal, right? Because if you want to get the customer mindset pervasive in the company, that's just perfect, perfect. One of the things I think that we try to celebrate a lot, like others celebrate the big wins. But I've given particular focus to advocacy. So when we have a customer advocate, we've got somebody who has realized the value out of what they've got, and they're willing to talk about it, and they're willing to go on stage and talk about it publicly, do case studies, et cetera. That really puts the wind in the sails of the business, and those are really, really worth celebrating in a big way.
All right, I'll say two quick things. One's kind of tied to the theme that Nick talked about in his keynote, this positivity theme. So we've really made it very pointed to ensure that we're using positive words. So instead of like risk, we say momentum. Instead of renewals, we talk about delighting in growth. And so we're always trying to use positive words and like how are we delighting our customers versus negative words. So I think that's really important. And then two, I think tied to kind of that advocacy, we're really looking for networking and community. So wherever we can put together like customers, wherever we can put together users who have common challenges, wherever we can connect the dots within our organization so that we're orchestrating and ensuring that the right people from our organization are getting involved in the customer, that's really important because that's what we really think customer success is about.
Great, thank you. I think we might turn to audience questions at this point if we could.
New order E sign special clauses like I've never seen.
Whoa, hold on. This is the answer to another question.
This is the answer to another question.
Let's be friends. I'm dying to be your CSM, but your support.
Okay, so let's just do this joke in reverse, shall we? That was the punchline. The setup was, do you have any regrets of anything that's happened in customer success? And while, we all have a fair amount of regrets, you just sort of move on. You learn and you move on. But that video is something that that does keep me awake at night. How about you, John?
Yeah, I can't sleep.
Sorry about that. That joke went awry. We tried.
We may play it in full as we leave the stage. But yes, I did ask the guys in the past couple of days what mistakes have they made along their journey, and that was the response I got. Which I thought honestly was the best answer I could get, really. So let's look to the questions. The top one is a question actually I have myself, so I'm going to be self-serving and let's say, how do you see customer success evolve in the next 5 to 10 years? Who would like to take it? Anyone?
I think there's probably a bunch of ideas here. One thing that I've seen myself over the last probably year and a half is this interesting sort of merging of marketing, customer marketing, and customer success. And I'm sort of the opposite of a marketing person, so it's been really fascinating for me just to kind of watch this. I now have 2 marketing vice presidents as part of the customer success team doing post-sales, essentially marketing roles, and kind of learning what that's like and how a marketer thinks about things, particularly when we think about these at-scale challenges that a lot of us have. You've got to think like a marketer. Like, how do you reach and influence behavior at scale? That's a really hard problem, and I think you know, a lot of us feel that we've done a pretty good job figuring out how to do really high-touch CSM, like human-driven, you know, customer success. That's relatively easy compared to how do you make a small customer feel very valued and feel like they matter to you. That's really hard. And I think that's a very interesting trend that we're going to see evolve.
Great. Yeah, please.
All right, I'll take another stab at this. Look, 2 years ago, we were talking about, you know, should there be a CS ops role in the customer success department? And now, pretty much, you know, across the board, a lot of folks have that. I see over the next several years that A, the technology is going to make it easier to pull telemetry, make it much easier to integrate more information and create a more holistic 360-degree view of the customer, A. But I also think that additional disciplines are going to be pulled into that customer experience. We've already seen, you know, customer advocacy teams, to your point, Laura, bringing, you know, coming in and being full-blown disciplines within CS, and I think that is going to continue. You know, our digital touch will get much more advanced, much more sophisticated. I believe that we should be able to manage much more of the customer life cycle with digital touch than, you know, a lot of us are dipping our toe in the water. A lot of us are delivering some drip nurture campaigns as part of that digital touch, but, you know, as, you know, the digital technologies improve, as the customer voice gets stronger, as their ability to control us as vendors and set our priorities, we will see, you know, a lot of that technology, a lot of that process and practice really start to become much more an integral part of the customer success practice as well.
Great.
I'll just add one more to that. I think as the risk continues to shift and be borne by vendors, the whole journey is critical, right? So, you know, we've seen in the pre-sales function where the notion of a customer journey is managed down to a very fine level where they go on a website and then that experience is managed and, you know, on and on until they actually purchase. And I think we're going to see the same sort of science, if you will, or maturity applied to that post-sale phase where, you know, if you think about it as just a pre-sale journey of a different kind, but the stakes are higher, the complexity is higher, and I think we'll just see the maturing of that process in that journey for the customer.
Great. So I think maybe we might take the question. Maybe we do a kind of brief take the question on the VP of Customer Success. I know we've touched on people already, but we could probably do that with Christine. If you want to kind of give your response on that.
Yeah, so when hiring a VP of Customer Success, what are key traits to look for, and how do you think it's different from other VP positions in the company? So I think we did touch on it. You know, you've got to be this combination of strategic and operational at the same time, because you've got to be able to have this vision and really understand what the strategy looks like for your customers and for your organization. But it is also very much an operational execution role as well. It's an operator role. I think that's key. I think you've got to be able to be that advocate. You've got to be able to stand up and have a strong voice, because again, I still think while it's so fabulous to see how far customer success has come, I still think people are still trying to understand what it means, and where does customer success fit in, and so continually being able to be that advocate is going to be really, really important.
Great, thank you. So the question, since you started building your CS organization, what's the one thing that surprised you most on this journey? John, you might take that.
I'm surprised I have to answer this question. No, I'm kidding. Okay.
I'm not going to flinch.
I think for me it's actually pretty personal, and it's that my entire background was actually in consulting, pure consulting originally, and then consulting inside of technology companies. And somehow I sort of talked my way into this job at Box to take on all the service lines, and then we decided to call it customer success. Now, as Christina said, that the term wasn't new at that point. This was in 2011. It had been around for a while, but it didn't really have the momentum and that sort of energy that anywhere close to what it has now. And so to sort of being there, like right place, right time, as this thing was starting to kind of take off and get really understood, has been really interesting. And just to be kind of part of that has been a pretty pleasant surprise career-wise for me, just to kind of be there.
Great, thank you. And Chris, I might put the question to you. I can see the question hovering around there around chatbots and what role they play in the customer success program, but I also see the theme of AI I've seen popping up on the questions. Maybe we might broaden that question slightly.
Yeah, I feel strongly about this one.
Okay, great.
Given at Slack. So I'll start with it, and then you guys can add into it. But I think that we've got to get to quicker interactions and feedback with the customer. Like the loops just aren't fast enough. And so the ability to get in app, specifically, obviously, I'm a proponent of Slack and getting that real time. So we're trying to say, we're not going to send emails. That's slow. We're going to put in bots. We're going to put these chat bots instead of like where customers are in their journey so that they're seeing that real time in our app, but that we're getting that feedback quickly. And I think that's really going to be critical. And it also sort of answers that where's customer success going in the next 5 or 10 years. Like it is proactive, but we've also got to be faster, urgent, more agile, getting things in hands of users faster.
Wholeheartedly agree. I guess I would just add that chatbots or any other technology or any other process that you put in place, those are means to the end. And the end, of course, is I'm sorry to be so repetitive, but proactively and consistently managing the customer experience throughout the life cycle. So here's where I get preachy. If you haven't done your customer journey maps by customer segment, you need to do that, because if you don't know where you're going or what you're trying to, the experience you're trying to deliver, any road will get you there. And so my answer to this is, hey, if I've mapped out my customer journey and chatbots are the best and most efficient way for me to deliver the customer experience that I'm trying to deliver, double down on it and go. If it's some other technology, do that. If it's email and that works for you and your solution and your customer base, do that. It doesn't really matter how you do it, but it matters that you're prescriptive about what you're trying to deliver to your customers. So I think I view it as a means to an end.
Just want to add one quick thing. I've actually been working on a side project to build a chatbot. I'm a computer science degree, so I'm working on a chatbot to actually take on my role in customer success. Pretty good so far. It can say "I'm sorry" in 7 languages.
Can I license? Can I license that one from you? Okay, I'm gonna get that.
Great. I might
Must be late. Everybody's tired. They're hot, right? Must be.
Get the music to come back on.
Yeah, I'm going to take this opportunity to thank our panelists. They've been fantastic. If you could really show your appreciation, and thank you all for your attention. This has been great.